Hi everyone, I'm Carol Keller, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Illinois in the United States, coming to you today with my video for my bundle bonus for August, which is the Bottled Happiness Bundle. That bundle consists of a stamp set and a punch, and if you purchase that bundle from me by the end of August, I will send you the components to make this card. Let's get started. Here's the card that I designed for today, using again that Bottled Happiness Bundle, and I will show you all of the components at the end. But let's get started. I'm starting with a basic white card base, A2 size, A4 size of course also works, and I'm just burnishing it with my bone folder so it will lie nice and flat. I am using the Awash Beauty 12 by 12 designer series paper, which I will also show you at the end. And I have cut it to the size of the card front, so 5.5 by 4 1/4, or 14.9 by 10.5 if you're working in centimeters and an A4 card. And we are going to start by putting some ribbon on there. So I've got my Pool Party sheer ribbon and my glue dots. So we're going to, this is the easiest way that I find to do it. Instead of trying to tie a bow or a knot on the front, we're just gonna, or tie a bow, I guess. Instead of trying to tie a bow, we're going to just put a glue dot at each end, and I always work off the roll because I hate to waste. Grab another glue dot for the other end, put it to the back. And then we're going to put this on with some Stampin' Seal. Isn't that paper gorgeous? Or not Stampin' Seal, I'm sorry, multi-purpose liquid glue, but I got distracted by how pretty that paper is. One of my favorite paper packs in the whole annual catalog. And all of the products that I'm using are from the annual catalog. So we'll flip this over and get it on our card front. The glue helps us to take the time to position it. And then I think right away we're going to just tie a little knot at the end. So it just gives it that really pretty soft look. And I'll see, I wanted a longer tail, but it was hanging off the card. So let's see if I can do it this time. Again, just kind of working off the roll. And I just made one loop, but I may do a second one if that's going to, yeah, I think we'll try it again. We'll knot it, and I think that will give me the look that I'm going for. So we'll see here. Yeah, I think that will work better. So I'm just going to pretty up the edges by cutting it at an angle. And then one here, yeah, that shows more on the card, which is what I was going for. So you want to do a square knot, and that will give you that look. Could have even left that one a little longer, but that's okay. And we'll put a glue dot underneath here because it's going to be covered anyway with some of the elements of our project. But that will help anchor it too. And so now we're going to do some stamping. We'll start with our bottles. So I've got a piece of vellum that comes from the Lovely Layers Vellum paper pack, and it's got designs, but it also has 40 sheets of blank vellum, so the rest are designed. There are 60 sheets, 20 have patterns on them, and 40 are just like this. So we are going to use this to stamp our bottle, or bottles, because we will be doing 3 of them. So let's bring out the components. The most important thing to remember is that you want to stamp your darkest layer first, so that's the outline stamp. It makes it so much easier to line up your stamps. So I'm going to bring in Pacific Point for that outline. And we'll stamp it here. And I'm just doing it kind of sideways so that I can see it better on camera. And now we're going to take a scrap of grid paper because we are going to stamp off. That is first generation stamping when you stamp right on your project. And this is second generation, or stamping off. Make sure I have good coverage on the stamp. And I'm going to stamp off on my grid paper, so that's generation 1. And then generation 2 layers on our first stamp. And so you can see, I hope on camera, that you can see the edges of that dark Pacific Point on the first stamp that helps us to line up perfectly with the second one. And I'm going to clean my stamp. All right, the stamps are nice and clean. So now we're going to bring in Garden Green as our second color. I tried some other options for the colors of the bottles, but I was happiest with Pacific Point and Garden Green because I really was going for a vintage look. You could use Pool Party and match and you know, that kind of thing. You could use your subtles. So because most of the other colors, Blushing Bride, Highland Heather, Pool Party, those are all subtles, or you could choose another one, but I was really going for a specific vintage look. And so now we'll put on the second layer, again bringing in that scrap and stamping off. And you do want to make sure you get an even layer off of your stamp on your first go round on the grid paper. And then last but not least, we're going to bring in the Smoky Slate. This one is the most challenging because it is so light when it is stamped off. And this is where it shows how helpful it is to stamp the darker layer first, because I will tell you that when I did my very first card in this design, I stamped this one first and then layered with the dark, and it was very, very hard to see. So keep that in mind. That's why it's so helpful to do that dark layer first. And so now we're gonna ink up this one in Smoky Slate. Conventional wisdom has it that you start with your light color and then move to your darker colors when you're using the same stamp. But honestly, I find as long as you clean well in between, you don't need to worry about that, as you will see. We will stamp off one more time. And see, I've got good coverage on all three of those, so I know that it's even. It's pretty even, the layer of ink that's left on here. And line that up. And now we have all three of our bottles, and we're done with the Smoky Slate. And so I found the first time that I worked with these, and I can see it even here today on the Garden Green, it's not quite dry. It does sometimes take a little longer. I can see that it's shiny, so it's still wet. The Pacific Point looks pretty dry, but the other two are still wet. So I'm going to lay that to the side while we work on some of the other components of the card, and we'll let those dry. You could also use your heat tool to dry it, and I did do that the first time, but it doesn't take that long to dry, so we're just going to wait while we do the rest of the project. So let's work on the inside and the envelope a little bit. I am going to bring in the other bottle stamp from the set, and we're going to stamp it in Pool Party. We're going to stamp it on the envelope, and I'm having some trouble with this. I'm actually going to bring in my spoon, and I'm going to clean this because it's been sort of bubbly. I think I used an old ink refill, and it's bubbling, and I don't want it to do that. I want it to get a cleaner look, so hopefully this will help. It's a little bubbly, but we'll see. There's a little spot in the middle that's, of course, didn't take the ink. But I can pretty that up too with my Pool Party marker, my Stampin' Write marker, and I can fill that in later. Let's try it again over here. Yeah, that's better coverage. And we will stamp another one here. And the bubbles show when you're first stamping, but as you press it fills in, and as it dries it fills in. So I'm not really that concerned about it. And I still have the good outline of what the stamp looks like. Sometimes that gets muddled and the ink will kind of pour over into the white parts, but it didn't do that. So as long as it didn't do that, I'm happy with that. And then while we have the Pool Party, I've got a little scrap, and we're going to stamp the label for the front of the bottle. So again, I'm going to try and get it so it's inked but not overly wet. That one is a little muddled. Let's see if we can try one more time. I want ink on it so that it's covered but still leaves the outline detail. There's a little bit of it. I'm happier with that because I can see some of that white that really is supposed to go all the way around the edge. So I'm happier with that. And I think, oh no, we do still need our Pool Party. So we're going to keep that handy, and maybe we'll continue then with the Pool Party. Put these aside for now. And what we're going to do, we're going to bring in the Highland Heather also. And I've got another scrap right here because we are stamping and then obviously fussy cutting or cutting them out. So let me bring in the flower stamp, and we're going to use Highland Heather for that. And we'll stamp down here. And while we have the Highland Heather, we will stamp this sentiment that is going on the inside of the card. And that one comes from the Pansy patch stamp set. And when I have a photopolymer stamp that's long like this with a sentiment, it does tend to want to wiggle around and not be straight. So I found that the best way to get it to be straight on your block is just to lay it down on your grid paper and then pick it up. And that works almost every time. I did have some issue with it the last time I used it, but it's working well this time. So we're going to use that for the sentiment on the inside. A little hello from me to you. And our sending cheer on the label. And so we are done, I believe, with our Highland Heather. So we'll bring that pool party back in. And this time we just need it for the other stamp in the two-step stamp that we're using to make the flowers. So this has the leaves. And even with the bubbling, this won't affect this one very much at all. You can see that it actually stamped very nicely. And so to line it up, the flowers all have centers on here that are smaller flowers. And so I just lined it up. Let's see here. How is it going? Like this now. I have this upside down. Yes, I had it upside down. This is it, because if I look, there is a center for every single flower in there. It's the first time I did that, I had it upside down. Oh, I see why, because I stamped the flowers upside down. It's meant to go this way, and so that's why I was confused. But obviously you can stamp it either way. We're going to cut it out. We're just going to make sure we have it right side up on our card. But that is all we need for the pool party. And I know you're thinking, but wait, we have more flowers to color and also for the inside and the envelope. But for that, I'm bringing in this stamp, and we are actually going to color this with the Stampin' Right markers in Pool Party and Highland Heather, because I want both colors on the stamp. And remember, always, always use your Stampin' Right, your water-based markers. Never, never use your Stampin' Blends to color on your stamps. Alcohol markers will ruin your stamps. So only the Stampin' Right markers for this. And I'm just putting some Highland Heather on all of the flowers on the stamp. Getting some good coverage there. And then I'm going to come back in with the Pool Party for the stems. And I know you see that this stamp is well loved and it's stained pink, but there will be no pink on those stems or on the flowers for that matter. It stains the stamp, but it doesn't actually transfer to what you're using. So we'll start with the inside of our card, and we're just going to stamp it in the vase, in the bottle. And then we're going to do the same thing with the envelope. And I'm also going to stamp two on here that we're going to cut out to use for this. So I will do that off camera, and I will cut everything out. But actually, before I do that, we have one more thing to stamp, and that is some stems. I wanted some stems for that bouquet. So I'm using a stamp that comes from the Daffodil Dream stamp set. There are actually two different ones that you can use. And actually, I'm going to use the other one. I used this one this way to make this grouping of stems, but I'm actually going to use another one from this set so that you can compare and contrast and see which one you like best. This is the other stamp from the set that I've used for the stems, And this one is just more tight, like someone's almost gripping that stalk, or they're tied together, where this is a little looser. And so I'm gonna grab, actually that's right, I need my Pool Party ink one more time. And I'm just going to ink the bottom where the stems are. I don't need to ink the whole thing. That's good. And we will use it, I could probably use this scrap. So I'm going to bring this back in and stamp it like this. And that's all I need is this part. So again, I will cut that out. Now we are done with our Pool Party. So like I said, I will stamp the rest of these on 2 on here and then 1 on the envelope, and I will cut everything out and I will be right back. All right, I have everything cut out and I've done the envelope and the inside, so I'll move that aside. And the one thing I did want to note is that I did cut in between and cut out some of the white parts to make it look a little more realistic. So if you want to, you can do that. And now we will finish our assembly. So we're going to start with that. Oh, that's right. We're first going to punch out, of course, our bottle, the vintage bottle punch. So I'm just going to line it up in the punch. And again, the dark outline really helps to do that. And there are no issues with them being wet. They're all nice and dry. Now we will finish our assembly. So we're going to start with the center bottle and our stems. I think I'm going to cut the top just a little bit. I'm less concerned about the white up at the top because it's going to be probably covered by the flowers anyway. And I'm going to line it up so that the longest ones are toward the bottom and the narrow part goes right in the neck of the bottle. So I'm going to put that on with some Stampin' Seal. And then we'll use some more seal on the back of the stems to adhere it to the card. And I want it in the middle and up a little bit from the bottom. And again, it helps anchor that ribbon. And for the flowers that are now right side up, we are going to use some dimensionals to put those on. And we'll take the paper off. And I will put that on again, covering the very top of the stems. And now for the bottles, I actually reversed the green one because I felt it was just as dark on the other side, and I liked the balance that it provided doing it that way, but you could do it either way, obviously. And so for these, I put some Stampin' Seal on the back, or in this case, on this one on the front, but what's going to be the back of it. And I ran 2 layers down there so that it gives even coverage on the back, so it's harder to determine or distinguish that there's actually adhesive there. And that's the best one I would recommend to use. And I'm going to also kind of, I want the flower to be next to the big bouquet. So about like that. And then this I'm just going to put on with some glue dots. I'll tuck it back into that bottle. And then do the same thing on the other side. And then Stampin' Seal for the label. And that again helps hide the white, some of the white at the top by the stems. And so last but not least, all we need is our bling. And for that, we're going to use some pearls, some pearl basic jewels. They actually come in 3 sizes, but I have just 2 sizes left, so I'm going to use those larger ones. So I'm going to grab my Take Your Pick tool and use the putty end to move those onto my card. And so I put them in several of the flower centers. I decided to use 5 pearls. And you could put flowers or pearls in the centers of the other 3 flowers, but I wanted to have an odd number. And if we did all of them, there are 8 flowers, and I didn't want to do 7. I didn't want to leave one without one, so I decided on 5. And that is it. That is our finish. Before I sign off, here are all of the products that I used today to make this card. First off, we have the Bottled Happiness stamp set and the Vintage Bottle Punch, which again are a bundle, which means they are priced at 10% off the cost of buying them separately. So bundles are always 10% off, so that is another perk of bundle bonus. I used the Pansy Patch stamp set for the sentiment, A Little Hello From Me to You, and it's got some other wonderful ones. And I also used Daffodil Daydream for the stems. Like I said, both cards. This stem was used for this one, and this one was used for that one. So whichever you prefer. And I used the Lovely Layers Vellum. These are the 4 designs that it comes in. So you get 5 of each, and then you get also 40 sheets of just the plain vellum that we used today for the project. Here is the Awash in Beauty Designer Series paper. It is absolutely gorgeous. I love the color palette. So lots of wonderful designs. Let me show them to you this way. And then of course the reverse side with coordinating colors, and that's what we used for today, coordinating colors and patterns. And here is a full package of the Pearl Basic Jewels. So you see there are 3 sizes. And last but not least, the Pool Party Sheer Ribbon. So those were all of the items that I used for today. Thanks so much for joining me. Again, if you're interested in purchasing the bundle from me, then I will send you the components to make this card. And you will also have access to a PDF file that is being compiled by a whole group of demonstrators that I'm involved with. So what that means is you will have lots and lots of ideas for using this wonderful bundle. Some of them will have companion YouTube videos, and some will just be the photos of the cards and the recipe for measurements and supplies that you would need to make each card. So please reach out to me if you are interested in purchasing the bundle. So I will give you my host code for the month that you can use to purchase it, and then I will send you the components for the card. Check out my other Bottled Happiness videos as well. I have other cards, scrapbook pages, home decor items, paper pumpkin alternatives that I do almost every month, so there's a lot there to see. If you haven't subscribed to my channel and you like what you see, please do so, and if you click on the bell, you'll be notified when I post new videos. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. Happy stamping.